I'm Fred Cunningham, and welcome to First Responder Friday on WSPA+. Every Friday on 7 News, we profile law enforcement officers, firefighters, EMS, 911 operators, and many other professionals in the Carolinas who respond in times of an emergency. Let's meet some of the people who have devoted their lives to service and run towards trouble when the rest of us are trying to get out of the way. You are so pretty. If you spend much time at one of the City of Malden's fire stations, you're going to see Ember. And let's get one thing out of the way, because lots of people ask. This German Shepherd mix is one healthy dog.
The characteristics that you see in her is what you're looking for in a healthy dog. You want to be able to see those hip bones a little bit when you're standing above the dog. You want to be able to see a little bit of the ribs. So although to some people who may not have that perspective on dogs, they might see her and say, that dog needs to eat. You know, she's well fed and she's right where she should be.
Ember visits lots of schools, helping to teach young people how to stop, drop, and roll to stay low during a fire.
When I was doing that, I would see kids kind of start to minds wandering, you know, looking at other things, a loud noise would happen. Ember, stop. I noticed with our first demonstration with her, I had the kids' attention. Good girl. Studies show that animal-assisted education can actually improve that by about 50%.
There's lots of training involved. Centrone and Ember have close to 300 hours already.
I work with Ember on a minimum 7 days a week. Doesn't matter if it's a holiday or a weekend for 15 minutes. Some days we might be out there for 30 minutes to an hour.
Nothing to see here. Nothing to see. And who says you can't do dog training with a newborn?
Ember lives with his handler's family. There's lots of affection from Centrone's 3 children, but there's also one big rule at home.
We really don't give her treats. So she doesn't get table scraps. Say hi. When you start entering, you know, things like bacon or, you know, milk bones, they're all considered high value treats. And what could happen is the dog could stop performing because it's like, hey, I want that bacon. I'm not going to do what you say.
The no treats rule goes for the firefighters too, who get to see Ember when they face some of their toughest times. The canine visits 2 stations each day.
She gets to interact with the firefighters. So what that does is it kind of helps them relax, de-stress. And then if there is a major incident where something really tragic happens and we bring Ember in, they're not viewing it as really an aid. It's just part of their everyday life.
Ember's dog life is helping to save lives. And that's First Responder Friday. Every disaster doesn't come with flashing lights or loud sirens. Some come in silence, as when people lose their jobs.
If they're not at their worst, they're kind of down there. And so we have to pick them back up.
The we Chanel Holmes is talking about is the South Carolina Department of Employment and Workforce's Rapid Response Team.
We have to tell them, hey, starting over can be a good thing. Starting over in a new career, like, we can help you. We're here to assist you. And so I think we give them hope. Hey, how are you doing today?
Holmes's team prepares when DEW gets a warn notice from a company ahead of big layoffs, like the Kohler plant in Spartanburg County. It had several layoffs, putting hundreds out of work before it closed for good in 2024.
That was a big company, and people had been there like 20, 30 years. So there we did a job fair for them. We did the resume workshops with them.
There's also the job of making those workers employable again. Basic skills like how to interview.
Just looking directly people in their eyes and shaking their hands.
Or how to dress.
People, they be like, oh, I want to be a construction worker, and they go to the interview in a full suit, you know. Maybe just wearing khakis and a nice shirt may be okay for a construction interview.
Plus the assurance that things can work out.
We do have some people that say, well, I'm too old, nobody wants to hire me. So we try to tell them that your skills are valuable. Somebody that's 20 doesn't have the skill set of you being 55. We let them know that you have skills that are valuable and that companies are looking for.
That's First Responder Friday. The BMW plant in Greer covers more than 1,100 acres, and within a 24-hour period, there will be about 18,000 people on site.
I like to say that every building is like its own little inner city.
It's a business with its own fire department.
Just like the municipal departments, they're doing the same job out in the county that we're doing here in the industrial site.
They meet before every shift in a training room named in honor of Micah Horton Sr., one of its longtime firefighters.
One of the major daily tasks of the fire department is fire prevention rather than fire response. However, should the need arise, they are well trained and fully trained in specialized areas to protect BMW.
But again, it's a big place.
We have 3,500 fire extinguishers in the plant. Those have to be inspected once a month. We have pull stations, we have sprinkler systems, another 1,500 points of inspections that we have to do throughout this plant.
When those calls come in, response times are about 2.5 minutes.
It's a very specialized fire department. What I like to say, it's kind of like going to a general practitioner or doctor versus a cardiologist.
That could mean some tricky work inside some of the plant's more than 8 million square feet.
There's everything from presses to cradles to things that can cause injury or produce sparks and fire. They have to be very experienced in extrication. They have to be experienced in confined space rescue, experienced in medical. They are well trained to hazmat technician level, trained in confined space rescue.
And with 6 fully electric vehicles set to be built in the coming years, those unique fires require special equipment and tactics.
This blanket is designed to cover a vehicle if it's on fire. We're going to put water on the interior, the cabin fire, to extinguish it first. Then we'll cover it with this fire blanket, and then all we do is keep it cool until we can get it out of the structure.
And that's First Responder Friday. As you can see, these stories are just a way for us to say thank you to the men and women who are our local first responders. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, more of the people and stories that make up First Responder Friday. Welcome back to 7 News First Responder Friday, right here on WSPA+. We'll continue now with the stories of our brave local first responders and how they serve our communities. Take a look. It's boating season in South Carolina, when the speed on the state's lakes gets tied up in knots. That makes it the time of year when Taylor Lindsay starts most days dropping his DNR boat into Lake Greenwood.
We're in the woods more than we are on the water, but the 3 to 4 months that we're on the water, it is extremely busy.
Lindsay started his career in law enforcement, but
I grew up hunting and fishing, so I knew that I wanted to do DNR.
And DNR wanted him.
They were looking for who can do this job the best, and it's not just something that anybody can do. It definitely takes a hunting, fishing, and boating kind of background to do this job.
That means he knows what can happen on the lake, both good and bad.
The water is dangerous, and if you're inattentive or not paying attention to what's going on, it can end badly.
8 DNR officers patrol this lake. The busy season is here. So are the crowds, and DNR is counting.
We definitely encourage everybody to have and wear a life jacket, but you definitely have to have life jackets for as many people as you have on the boat. We definitely don't cut a whole lot of slack on life jackets. That's the very important thing. Those are what keep you alive.
Lake Greenwood stretches into Lawrence and Newberry counties. It's about 5 times smaller than Lake Hartwell, but the place is changing.
This lake is developing very, very fast, and you're seeing a lot of fishermen boating. You're seeing people from Charleston, Greenville, you're seeing people from everywhere.
And they see Lindsay, who has one goal. That's for everyone who visits Lake Greenwood to leave there safely.
7 years on the water, you definitely encounter a lot of situations, but being here for families when bad things happen is rewarding. We are bringing closure to families in certain situations, and also I've been out here where I've prevented bad things from happening just by being here. This is my office. My truck in the woods and my boat in the water is my office, and that's where I feel comfortable.
That's First Responder Friday.
This is where most of our stuff, like our crime scene.
Call this the large arm of the law. Police officer Taquan Johnson, at 6'2" and more than 300 pounds, was a lineman at Clemson for 3 seasons starting in 2019. But his original plan was to be a veterinarian.
You stand out at Clemson, you have a lot of responsibilities outside of your actual duty on the field and off the field. You're a role model to very many people. And that schedule to be a vet just wasn't there.
So he followed the path of his adoptive father in Maryland into law enforcement. He was hired by Lawrence PD a year ago, and you can say football helped build him for success.
It is very, very hard work, and it builds character. Some of the most successful people in the world are linemen.
Johnson's football days actually pay off when he stops on patrol in front of a big crowd.
He's a huge presence when he gets out, but I say he's like a big teddy bear, but I definitely wouldn't cross him.
It's very typical to be like, hey, that's the guy that plays for Clemson, or that's the guy that played for Clemson that ran our summer camp. And it really makes my day, because not only do people know who I am, it's a source of trust. You already have that connection.
And Johnson wants to make more than just a connection. It's to build relationships with young people.
A lot of the youth that are in this community, they're starting to believe in what we're building here in Lawrence, and it's starting to show. We're starting to have less problems out of juveniles. We're starting to see less juveniles involved in violent crimes, but we still got to continue to do our job.
Johnson says he's living in the moment with big plans down the road.
But I want to eventually move into a political field and hopefully eventually run for president one day. But right now I'm living in the now, I'm enjoying the moment and continuing to grow. So that way when I do make my move, is swinging for home runs.
And Vance Mahaffey's here from Benson Hyundai with a presentation.
On behalf of Benson Hyundai and the entire Lawrence community, we want to thank you for what you do for each and every one of us. And here's a small token of our appreciation.
Thank you, sir.
And that is First Responder Friday.
We're going to make sure that airway is open.
Where will the next generation of emergency medical techs come from?
11, 12, 13.
One place is here at the Spartanburg EMS Academy.
We have progressed in the treatments and the medications and interventions that we can provide for these patients so that we can have more of the life-saving skills right there as soon as we get there, and we're not having to wait the 15 or 20 minute transport time to get to the hospital.
Tiffany Ledbetter has 16 years experience as an EMT and paramedic. 2 years ago, she became the Academy's training coordinator. People are hired and are paid as they go through a 7-week course. In 12 weeks, they can be certified EMTs in Spartanburg County.
When they come in the door, we hit the ground running that very first day, and they are here Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day, and we are covering a lot of material.
Yes, sir. They kind of feed you to the wolves around here. You get your feet in the fire, but it's a good thing if that's what you're looking to do.
Boyd Shipman was a machinist for 20 years, but made the move to EMT training inspired by his other job, being a volunteer firefighter.
Firefighter's my #1 calling. I love it. It's what I like to do. I'm a hose dragger for life, but I think I found like a second career where I can work at my fire department and I can work with the EMS. So I kind of like that. They kind of go hand in hand. If you like helping people, this is kind of where you want to be.
The first class put 26 EMTs on duty in Spartanburg County in January 2022. Another 18 joined them this past January.
We're going to work on these rescue breathing, so whoever is going to take airway.
And this class is on track to produce another 26 by early May. And Malik Burton and Jay Barton are here. They're from Benson Hyundai with a presentation.
We like to show a small token of our appreciation on behalf of the Benson family with our gift.
Thank you so much.
And thank you. And that is First Responder Friday. We're going to take a short break from our stories of these amazing heroes. Stick around for more First Responder Friday right here on WSPA+. It's a privilege and an honor to get the opportunity to bring you these stories of our local heroes, those who choose to put their lives on the line or simply choose to be there for us when we need them most. Here are some more stories from our First Responder Fridays.
Greenville County 911, what is the location of your emergency?
It's a greeting Abby Watts makes 100 times when she's on duty inside Greenville County's 911 Communications Center.
We treat all callers as if it is the worst day of their life when they call 911. We do everything we can to calm them and help them to have a better day.
Watts and these dispatchers work 12-hour shifts, 2 days on and 2 days off, days and nights, weekdays and weekends. Abby is a mother of 4, and her job has at least one benefit back at home.
The coolest thing, Mom answers 911 calls. So they tell everybody, my mom answers 911 calls. My mom works at the sheriff's office. They're very proud.
And children make lots of calls to 911. Sometimes it's a real emergency, but Watts says there's something parents need to know.
A lot of people give their children cell phones to play with that are no longer in service, but every cell phone, even if you have no service, still calls 911. So we get a lot of those.
Emergency calls can be frantic on one end of the line, and Watts knows what she needs to do on the other end.
Oh, you practice controlling the call, so a calm tone of voice, and we ask questions. Sienna, what's your last name? And people do not seem to always like the questions, but they're very important questions. What's your address? Our job is to get the public help the quickest, safest way possible. You should try CPR, okay? Let me put you back on, okay? You'd be surprised what you can do, but also to make sure that our first responders are safe as well. They're coming as fast as they can.
And that's First Responder Friday. Sergeant Mackenzie Holmes is an engineer, which means she drives the truck for Spartanburg Fire Station 3. So how did she get here? I'll get to that. But let's start with her growing up with a twin sister in Arizona.
When I was in middle school, I was convinced that I was going to the WNBA, and I suck at basketball. So I did track and field to condition for basketball, and I also sucked at running. And I threw the discus one day in a PE class, actually, and I threw it further than any other girl in the class.
That led Holmes all the way to winning the Big South discus title at High Point University, qualifying for the NCAA championships.
I was coaching college track and field. That was kind of my dream job growing up. And then I realized that I actually wanted to pursue a different career.
So she contacted the Spartanburg Fire Department, and it didn't take long before she was on a new road to become a firefighter.
Nobody forced me into this career. It was a choice, right?
It's a choice she hopes other women will make.
I think it's been an easier transition for me because I do have the athletic background and I do have the drive to be fit and drive to pursue more. So I think for all women it's possible, but it does definitely take a specific mindset in a male-dominated field. I'm very fortunate. I'm surrounded by a bunch of guys who don't view me as just a girl, which I could not be more thankful for. I mean, my crew goes above and beyond.
And when this truck shows up on a call, Holmes knows she gets noticed.
I got out of the truck and all of these little girls and their mom like, oh, it's a girl firefighter.
Holmes makes the case for more women to join the fire service so they can feel what she does on the job.
Every single time. I don't know that it'll ever go away. It's exciting. We get to do the best job in the world. Even if it's not like an adrenaline rush, it's just like the thrill of getting to do what we get to do.
And that's First Responder Friday.
And I just found a love to help people who were basically in their darkest times.
Brittany Roper is the Pickens Police Department Victims Advocate. Her job includes keeping crime victims up to date on cases, helping them speak to a judge or get restitution, and to support them.
I haven't been a crime victim of something, but I can understand that they are going through something traumatic, and so just being kind and helping them to work through some of their fears and apprehensions about court.
It doesn't matter if it's a shoplifting or something much more visceral. She is a warrior, a champion, a fighter, and a true advocate for victims.
But Roper has been through a lot. 8 years ago, she was expecting quadruplets.
They were born 3 months early, and so one of my daughters passed away of, it's called necrotizing enterocolitis, and it's a disease that affects premature babies. And so she was 16 days old when she passed, And then I have a son who was born with 2 rare chromosome disorders. And so he technically isn't supposed to be compatible with life, but as we know, science sometimes don't always get it right. So he is here. He is the most precious child, just absolutely happy, sweet, just fills my day with joy.
And a few years later, Brittany faced her own health challenge. She was diagnosed with stage 2 triple-negative breast cancer.
I'm a very strong believer in Christ and my faith, and when I was diagnosed, it was almost a sense of joy, which is strange to say, but I felt like God was going to use this for His glory. And so I had this sense of peace that I couldn't explain to anybody unless they felt it. But I knew I was going to be okay.
She's been cancer-free for nearly 2 years.
I didn't choose to have cancer, but there's a lot of people who have things handed to them that they didn't choose, but you have to continue to fight.
Brittany has been called a warrior for herself and victims of crime.
I just want to give back. I want to give back to the community, and I want to be able to lay my head down at night on my pillow and say, I made a difference for someone, somewhere.
And that's First Responder Friday. Those are just some of the people who chose careers with one goal in mind: to help others. You can see new editions of First Responder Friday every week on 7 News in our morning and afternoon newscasts. You can also find all of our previous profiles in the First Responder Friday section of WSPA.com and the 7 News app. And join us here for more episodes of First Responder Friday on WSPA+. I'm Fred Cunningham, and we'll see you next time.